I just heard someone say in the same sentence that they're born in 2008 and that they're 18 years of age. And I thought to myself, no, Maddie, that is not right. That cannot be right. And it stressed me out. I don't know what to do.
Why does Gen Z hate the idea of growing old? And this is all of Gen Z, even the younger ones that are equally just as afraid.
Nothing makes me more sad than the concept of getting older and never being able to go back.
What does this mean? It was never the case 20 years ago when adolescents were actually excited at the thought of growing up. Because the fear does not come from old age. So then what? Does this mean that the times have changed? Or is this generation missing something?
You're telling me that youngsters are hitting life milestones much later in life compared to older generations. What milestones? Like getting married and having children?
Marriage and children, yes. But they're missing something even before that.
Hold a painful 11-hour ritual.
Every culture has their own definition of what it means to come of age. In the Sateri Maui, young boys dance around while wearing a pair of gloves filled with hundreds of venomous bullet ants, enduring the worst pain of their lives. Then there's the Jewish bar mitzvah, when boys the age of 13 reach a religious adulthood and become responsible for following the Jewish law. The fear that Gen Z has is not of age, it is of incompetence, feeling as though you're not ready to step into the next stage of life. A coming of age ritual is something that happens in every culture across the world, where there is an exact moment in time when a boy or a girl comes of age and enters adulthood.
Born in 2008, darling, that means you're 13. And then I thought to myself, 1 second, let's do the math on that. Did the maths, that means they're 18. 2008, 18 years old. And it stressed me out.
Why is this person feeling this way? I mean, physically they look like a grown-up. All they need to do is start acting like one as well. One word, Erikson. Erikson said something that changed how we look at coming of age entirely. He said that life unfolds through 8 stages of development. Every stage of development presents a new crisis that the person has to resolve. And as you go through life, resolving each of these crises, you collect virtues. Things like hope, will, purpose. But there's another thing that Erikson says. Each life stage needs to be resolved before we can move on to the next one. Not resolving a life stage causes maladaptation. And this is what we're seeing across Gen Z that's so afraid to grow up. The 4th stage of development tackles industry versus inferiority. And this is when children learn to tackle tougher challenges and transition from home to the wider social world.
That's me, but I'll sell you a punch in the gut.
Really?
Yep.
If left unresolved, they feel inferior, as though they're not capable of achieving more. Remember the rite of passages I brought up earlier? That wasn't for no reason. With Erikson's theory of psychosocial behaviors, it makes complete sense why a rite of passage creates the perfect resolution for a developmental crisis, allowing the person to confidently step into the next stage of life. Many rites of passages around the world happen during the 4th stage. When an Amazonian boy wears gloves filled with fire ants, it isn't just a spectacle, but the pain and suffering that he experiences is a physical indication of the crisis being resolved, and also social validation to step into adulthood. The primary virtue of this stage is therefore competence. Each stage must come to a resolution before the next one can begin. Unresolving stage 4 and leading directly into the 5th stage of personal identity versus role confusion obviously creates more confusion.
All laid out, right here.
Boss, I can't tell who anyone is.
Well, you gotta really look at it to understand.
But there's already physical indication of stage development that every teenager goes through, rite of passage or not. Puberty. The biggest biological indicator of coming of age is in fact puberty. Going through puberty is literally when your body is changing from a transition from childhood to adulthood. So did Erikson just forget about that?
Actually, no. Scientists say adolescence lasts from about 10 to 25 years of age. Why?
Even though coming of age is biologically connected to puberty, they're not the same thing. While puberty is a biological transition into physical and sexual maturity, coming of age is a social concept that includes assuming responsibility and completing societal milestones. Many go through puberty in time, but only some come of age. A rite of passage is a social cue of acceptance. A Hindu girl looks forward to wearing a sari, just like all the other women. A village boy skins his first rabbit, just like all the other men have done. These are all marks of social acceptance that make us feel that, yeah, I have grown up and I am capable. Also, I lied. Brain maturation lags behind puberty by roughly a year. What I mean by that is the part of the brain that makes well-informed decisions, the prefrontal cortex, isn't fully developed until well into your 20s. But the limbic system, which is a reward-seeking area of the brain, is already at its peak when you are still a teen. This can only mean one thing.
Harder pressure. It's to Jenkins, to Drew for the win! Go!
Crazy ass teenagers. This gap in development between the two areas is why evolutionary psychologists think adolescents are high risk takers and sensation seekers. These people on the internet look like they're lost in more than one way, and truthfully they are. Not only did they miss a rite of passage that socially accepted them as adults into society, but their own brain hasn't either. Stay with me now, hope is not lost. On my 18th birthday, my dad snatched a glass of water out of my hand just as I was about to drink it. He snatched it and poured it over the sink. I asked why, but he left the kitchen and took the glass with him. I stood there in confusion, not knowing what he was about to do next. And just as I was about to pour myself another glass, he came back. This time, he didn't have the glass in his hand anymore. He had two, and they were filled with champagne. He passed me one and said, "Happy birthday," just as we clinked and drank. There was no 4-hour coming of age ritual, but something had changed. I wasn't going to start drinking with my dad anymore, but I understood that a next phase of life had begun.